do it and kind of pretend that people aren't here. I'll keep an eye on the chat. But what's up, everybody? We are live, and we've got a special guest. Jason is here today, all the way from Pennsylvania. What's going on, Jason?
Not too much. How's everybody doing?
So we're just going to, you guys are getting kind of like a fly on the wall view today. We're going to be setting up Jason's machine for the first time. We got a lot of work to do. His EasyCAD right now has just like a workspace that's just a thin bar across the middle. So we're starting absolutely from scratch. We're going to be cutting a focal stick. We're going to be working on some different parts for his specific industry that you guys are going to be able to take a look at and hopefully, you know, get to learn something. J-Mac says, hi, Jason. Thanks, J-Mac, for tuning in. So really special chance for you guys today to kind of just, like I said, be a fly on the wall and pick up some info. We're doing a raw setup here. Like I said, we're starting from scratch. We're about to find Jason's ideal focal point. Can I see that ruler again? You guys got to see this. So his manufacturer told him that he's supposed to be finding his focus by lining this tape on the ruler up with like a certain point on his head, which is just ridiculous. So we're going to get him a focal stick cut. We're going to find the optimal focus point, and then we're going to be working. He brought a big box of goodies, and you guys are going to be really excited to see what kind of stuff he's got cooking in there. So we'll break all that out too. I'll get the laser cam turned on for you guys so that you can get a closer view of the machine. And of course, if you have questions, feel free to jump in on chat, but we are going to just kind of try to focus here and get some of this done. So I'm actually going to blow this up fairly large here. And I'll move this over so you guys kind of get like the multi-purpose view here. So that's what we're doing today. Yeah, this, I know it's a joke, right? So we're going to get Jason all set up today. I will pass that back to you, sir. And the first thing that we need to do is your workspace here is very specific to your lens. How much do you know about like lenses and work areas and
Not a whole lot.
Okay, so you have a F254, which I'm going to have to look up because I don't know the focus values off the top of my head. No, Jason is not the bird dude. That's a whole separate pain in the butt. Jason's a patron, actually, of the channel. Let's just check CloudRay. I'm sure they have it on there. I don't remember. Each F value corresponds to a different workspace on your machine.
I believe they told me it's 175.
We're going to double check because they also told you to use a ruler to... yeah, so let's see. Laser machine, marking machine parts, F-data lens. I'm just going to double check the value on that really, really quick. Let's see. 220 is an F330, 160. So they said 175?
Yes.
All right, that sounds right to me. So 175 looks good. Oh, J-Mac made a list for me. Yeah, so 254 is a 175. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm sorry you guys can't see this. You're going to just have to hang tight because we can't stream Jason's PC here. But we want to come down to the work. This is kind of like your general EasyCAD parameters here. And workspace, this is where we put in the size of your work area. So because you have an F equals 254 lens, it means you have a 175 by 175 work area. That's going to go right here. So 175 by 175. This is the maximum view that your machine can see with its lens.
Okay.
The bottom left corner is going to be half that, which of course is really difficult math. We'll just pull up the calculator real quick. So whatever half of 175 is, divided by 2, 87.5. So all we're going to do is put negative 87.5 by negative 87.5. So all this is doing is telling EasyCAD where to put this bottom left corner, and the math works out. So so now we've got there's your workspace, right? This is as big as you can go, and we've got our bottom left corner set where we want it to be set. The other thing that we want to change, this grid is essentially useless. At 10 millimeters, we're going to knock this down to like 2. That'll really help you out, just kind of like sizing things. And the center cross line so that we can center things, because it's going to be really important for what we're doing today. So now we have much more precision and control in what we're doing. Have you ever had your system set up like this before?
No,
or?
not with the grid.
Okay, all right. So this is big. It's a big step already. We're doing really well. Now the first thing we have to do is find your focal point, and we want to I'm clicking the box tool here, and we're just going to create like any kind of ugly old box. And up here we've got our position. So this is where it is on the grid, and this is how big it is. And we can just manually type in, we want a 20 millimeter box by 20 millimeters. You see how it's autofilling to 18?
Yes.
We just have to unlock our proportions, and now we can change the other field without it changing the first one. We'll hit apply. We're going to move real fast today because we got a lot to cover. If I hit C on the keyboard, it centers it up.
Okay.
And we want this nice and center for our focal test. And then we're going to hatch it. Standard hatch looks good. You've got the 0.025 in there. We're going to enable the second hatch so we can do just a simple cross hatch. So our first angle is going to be 45 degrees, and our second is going to be negative 45 degrees, which is going to give us kind of like an X. So it's going to come up this way, and it's going to come up that way.
Right.
And that'll give us a really smooth final look.
Okay.
We also want our line distances to match. So we're going to go from 0.8 on this one to 0.025, and we'll hit OK. So here, if we zoom in on this, you can actually see that hatch there. See the so
Yes.
we're pushing up and we're pushing up, and that's going to be really clean. And what our goal is here is we're basically going to start the laser. I'm going to light this up so you can see your 20 millimeter box there. And our goal here is we're going to start. Let's bring the. You're good. So what we want to do. Get that where people can generally see it. That's good. So what we want to do here is we're going to start out of focus high, and then slowly bring the laser down until it's the loudest and brightest, and then we're going to take a measurement, because that's exactly how far away we need to be perfectly in focus. Okay. So we'll put our glasses on because we have to stare literally right at it, and I'm going to bring this way up. So we're going to come up so that we're purposefully out of focus here. And then you can go ahead and hit F2 on the keyboard. And then you can, so you hear the galvos working. You can hear, but we don't see or hear anything. And we're just going to start slowly bringing this down until we see it start to mark. So now we're starting to get something there. And keep coming. You can see our little guide dots are starting to get closer together. Right. Okay, this is really good, right? That's what we want to hear. We're going to keep bringing it down, and now it's gotten quiet again. Okay. Start bringing it back up. And it's starting to get a little quiet, so we'll bring it back down. And we're just trying to find just that perfect little spot right there. And that's it. So this is your focal point. This is what we need. Okay. And we want to make sure we hit this focal point every single time. So it looks like your red laser dots there are accurate, which is good. So you can use this if you want to. You just turn your dots on, you focus until the two dots come together, and you're good to go. Okay. But we're still going to cut you a focus stick while you're here today. And the first step to that is taking a good measurement. So I've just got the my little acrylic ruler here starts at 0. And we're going to take our measurement in millimeters. This is going to be such a big help for you. And we just kind of want to get right down on it here, and it looks like exactly 275 millimeters from lens to surface is your perfect focal distance. So you might want to like write that down or take a note or something, because if you need to ever cut another stick, you'll need that length. So that'll be 275 millimeters. And while you do that, I'm just going to grab my focal stick file for the CO2. And we're going to draft up just a really quick focal stick. That way, for every other project that we do today, we can just pop the stick in there and we know we're in focus. Okay. We don't have to worry about it again. So we will do that next. What's up, guys? Brent's here. Morning, Brent. Morning, Navarre. Good to see you. Very special episode today, if you guys can't tell. We're working with Jason, a patron from Pennsylvania, And we're just helping him get his machine set up today, and we're going to be working on some special parts. So we'll be checking that stuff out really soon. But first, we need to get Jason a focal stick cut. So we're gonna move into that right now. Edward's here. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Is it afternoon already? So let me just find our focal stick file. I know we've got it in here somewhere. Could it be EasyCAD library? You know what? I know it's on the Patreon, so we'll just go pull it off the Patreon real quick. This is gonna change your life, man. Just having like an appropriate focal stick instead of this ruler nonsense that they're making you do. Let's see, it should be under fiber laser. Those are settings. Here we go, focal stick templates, fiber laser. We'll get that downloaded. So here's just a basic fiber laser focal stick template. We get the T at the top so we can take advantage of our lens, and then we've got the point at the bottom so we can get an accurate focus. And all we're going to do is we're going to come to transform. We're going to set our height to 275 millimeters because that is what we require there. I know the kerf on the material that I'm using today is not that bad, so we shouldn't have to do an offset. If we really wanted to be careful, we could take this height to 275.5. That should give us an even 275 when we get out of the machine. 275.5 millimeters. Okay, perfect. So we'll save this. We'll just call it Jason focal stick. And we're going to bring that into Lightburn so that we can get that cut out for him and use that for all the other jobs that we're doing today. So we'll go ahead and get Lightburn open. And I'm just going to grab some material for him because we do have some leftover row mark. We've got some extra row mark we can take a look at. So let's see. We'll go to import. And we should be able to just come up here to quick access. Jason focal stick, open. So there's our focal stick. Our cut settings are already set, so we just need to throw a piece of material in there, and we can get this cutting. It should only take a minute or two, and then we can get into actually doing some jobs, because he's got a lot of different questions that he wants to ask. So we're gonna try to help him out with that today. So let me grab some acrylic, and I'll be right back with a brand new focal stick. Just swing around you. Sure. And you've got kind of a long distance, so if we use a really thin acrylic, it will snap. We don't want it to snap, so we're going to use a little bit thicker stuff than I would normally use just because it's going so far. Oh, do you have a CO2? You mess around with CO2 laser at all?
I have a Glowforge.
Oh, the Glowforge.
Yeah.
Fun. So you could do this on a Glowforge, though, if you ever need another focal stick.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Just any kind of sheet. It doesn't have to be this fancy row mark stuff. I like using it because it's a little more flexible than standard acrylic.
Yeah.
So, because sometimes I'm not paying attention, I'm down focusing, and then the stick is like bent, and I'm like, oh shit. Regular acrylic just snaps when you do that. So I like using this stuff, but you can do it with whatever. You can just throw it in your Glowforge and cut this out, and I'll send you a copy of this file too, so that you have it. Yeah. That way, if you need to ever cut another focal stick, that's definitely something you can do. Oh my god, let's work out. Get that lactic acid in the forearm.
The burn.
The burn. Alright, should be getting really close now. that's all set to cut. Sorry guys, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants today. Again, you guys are kind of getting just a fly on the wall, kind of listen in, you know, experience today on this. All right, so we've got our focal stick sent over, that's good. And we can come back over here and we'll get this focal stick cut out really quick. Weird being on the other side of the camera.
Yeah, actually it is. Yeah.
So we're just getting the focal stick cut out here, guys, and then we can move on with our day. Should be a nice quick cut. What's up, Steve? Just a little counter bend. It was starting to warp just a little bit there. Want that nice and straight. And there it is, brand new focal stick for Jason. All right, it's that easy. It only takes a couple seconds. Now, if we come back over here, we can test this. We already know the laser is at the perfect focal distance, the perfect focal height from this material. So we can just pop it in. That everything is still looking good. And we can see here. Yeah, that's perfect. That looks great. So focal stick done. So now we can move on to like actually doing some different jobs and taking care of some work and stuff like that. One thing that I would definitely recommend to you right away is, and we can stop this. Did you pick the 175 on purpose for a reason?
I just asked them what worked best for the application that I most would likely use it for, and that's what they told me.
Okay, so I would get some new lenses.
I have another lens that was the original that came with it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a. Actually, it's out in the truck, but oh no, here it is. Sorry.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, it's a tight fit. An F290. What did J-Max say that was? 290 is not even on there. This is somewhere between 175 and 200, which is kind of weird. It's like a 200 millimeter lens. So all of your lenses are really, really big. If you ever want to do like super deep engraving or like NFA stuff,
that's kind of what I would like to do.
Smaller lens.
Okay.
Way smaller lens, because you can see it's like really weak on this right now. If I take that same plate and I put that under my 110 lens on the other side of the shop here, it's gonna chew through that like really, really quick. And it's just because your dot size is so much bigger on that. This lens is really great if you like had like a whole lower and you wanted to sweep over the whole thing with like a really cool pattern.
Right.
This is the lens you want for that. Or this one. This one would be fine for that too. But if you're actually trying to achieve depth, especially on steel, you really need a tighter lens, and I would get one ordered like right away. These seem like standard lenses. Let me see. It might be Opex lenses. Also, your lens is that a chip? You got a chip, and did they send you a chip lens? Who did you buy this from?
That is from Style CNC.
Style CNC. Oh no, okay, not a chip. All right, good. Should be a standard. Do you want to try a 110 lens on your machine and?
Yeah, we can try it.
See, we're not. I mean, I just. So the NFA stuff. I mean, like I'll show you how to do it with your lens today.
Okay.
It's gonna take a lot longer than it needs to take though. So
I
believe that your laser uses standard lenses, so you should be able to pick a couple up. They're really inexpensive on like Amazon or AliExpress, and I would get like a 70 and a 110.
Okay.
You get them for like 60 or 70 bucks a piece for your NFA stuff.
Now the question is, if I close out of here, now I didn't set this up. Actually, the company did. They remoted into my laptop and they installed all the files.
Okay.
So they installed 2 files. One is for the lens that's currently on it now, which is here.
Yep.
And this is for the lens that's in the box.
Yep, sure.
Is that going to matter, and what needs to be changed if I change a lens to those programs?
So we actually have a video on this on the channel, but every single installation of a new lens requires a new installation of EasyCAD.
Okay.
You're on EasyCAD too, so you can just copy and paste the folder as many times as you want. So all they did is if I right click here and we go to open file location, this should take us to your EasyCAD folder. So here in your Windows drive, they've dropped them in this folder here. And you can see there's your 175 folder and your 200 folder.
Okay.
So literally all you have to do to do a new lens is we would copy the 200 folder and then paste it again, and it would say copy of, right, blah, 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 200 millimeter.
Right.
And then you just change the text in this one to 100 millimeter, open EasyCAD, and change the settings. So when you're opening those different shortcuts on your desktop, it's just referencing different EasyCAD installations.
Okay.
So that's all it is. So you just copy the folder and paste it, and then you would send a shortcut of the EasyCAD. I'll show you. So if we open this up into software here, this is your EasyCAD folder. There you can see EasyCAD 2. All they did is they right-clicked this, and they clicked send to desktop create shortcut. That's it. So all you have to do is copy the folder, and then
go ahead and do that a while, and then I'll order the lens. And
we can do that later. And like I said, there's a full guide, like literally every single step on how to do that.
Okay.
On the channel already, so we got that too. So that's no problem either.
Got it.
So that should be a really easy one for you to follow. But for now, we should focus on like different. I mean, let's make this lens work. You have the Patreon settings over there.
I do.
Are those adjusted for your lens and wattage?
They are adjusted to 175 at 60 watts.
Alright, let's see this.
60 watts, my lens is 175.
Yep. Cool, and then it makes the adjustments. So let's see what you have access to.
And that was your most recent, the beginning of the month, of this month.
Good. Everything should be on the table for you. How many of these have you tried out?
Realistically, only the steel and aluminum.
Yeah, that's all you really need for what you're doing. I just feel bad. I feel bad that you got saddled with like these giant lenses, because when you're doing this kind of work specifically, what you need is like oomph, you know, and you get the oomph out of that small dot size.
Okay.
So it's really it's critical that you get those lenses ordered. But we can play around with it today. So did you want to start with something like just the slide, or?
Yeah, we can do that. Or I also have.
Jason printed out. He actually printed out all of the Patreon settings on like this gigantic, like thing, and then he just hangs it in his shop, which I think is just so cool. How's chat going? So how far did JMac wants to know how far you traveled? How long of a drive did you have today?
Well, about 4 hours and 45 minutes.
4 hours, about 4 hours. He's in Pennsylvania, so he's just south of us here. So you have the lower?
Yep.
Okay, so what would you like to do on this? What do you want to learn how to do?
What I want to learn how to do is to be able to put a pattern on the whole lower. And what concerns me is, how do you measure your focal point with all the different contours?
Yeah, definitely. So it's you're asking a very interesting question, and it's really difficult to answer that super well. But this is a time when the big lens is going to be really helpful for you.
Okay.
Because the wider a workspace you have, the deeper your acceptable focal depth is as well.
Okay.
So on something like a 200 millimeter lens, you're getting almost 2 millimeters of focal play. You should be able to strike most of this in one go. I don't think that we would have a problem with that. So all I would do is like pick like an average spot. So maybe like right here where the mag release is, I'd probably focus to that point, because you're going to get away with a little lower, and you're going to get away with a little higher.
Yeah.
And you should be able to do the whole. Have you ever tried to do anything like that before?
No, I have not.
Okay, so we can try today. So we can do that. Do you have any patterns or artwork for this?
No, just some basic images, just small images.
Yeah, that's
nothing,
okay.
Nothing that will cover the whole slide, like any kind of scrolling or anything like that.
So is this kind of a burner lower, or are we trying to do something like really, really nice on this right now?
Well, if it comes out really, really nice, great.
That's
if
a
not,
bonus.
if not, then it's
all right, cool.
a
Yeah, if
practice
you want to
piece.
show me your artwork, we can take a look at it, and then I can kind of let you know where we can go from there.
Well, I have two separate ones. Ones that I already transferred into definite vectors from EasyCAD, and then I also have a bunch of files from my vinyl cutter that just may need converted over.
Okay, yeah,
So,
sure. Yeah, let's take a look. Steve says another paperweight. Hey, dude, I'm the king of paperweights, okay?
It's going to take it into this program, which I'm going to have to try to get it converted.
Does this program let you export?
No, it will not.
Oh.
Actually, that's not going to work anyhow. Let me go back into.
So High's here. What's up, So High? Kyle says, have a laser, will travel. Yeah, you can travel. It'll be 5 hours for you, Kyle. That's not too bad. Jason drove 4 today. It's just an extra hour. Oh, yeah, okay. And tell me you use a mouse at home.
I actually have one here.
Oh, good.
Wireless, but I didn't have a
Yeah,
place
no,
to put it.
No, I know. The space is really tight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that looks pretty good. Do you have a vision for this, like where you would like it to appear?
I guess for that, we would try to probably go into the flatter area.
Yeah, sure. And we would either, I would say either flip that guy so that because we want him facing maybe like the barrel's coming this way, right? So he should be flying like forwards. So we might want to reverse that if we're going to do this side so that he's flying the direction we're shooting.
So to do that, what do we have to do?
Oh, it's just that button right there, the reflect. Yep. Perfect. And then, so I guess, so is this one of those things that you were mentioning where you want it to kind of spill over the sides a little bit?
It can.
Or do you want it to just fit on the magwell there? Because I know you want to do like a big pattern that covers.
Yeah, I wanted to see how it'll go, like if it can spill over the edge
just a little
here.
bit,
Just
like kind of just touching. Yeah,
right.
Totally. So we can definitely do that. Let's get this out of here. And then the first thing that we're going to want to do is focus. Because if we don't focus, when you focus, and tell me if I'm just saying a bunch of stuff that you already know, but when we focus, we're changing the size of what we're engraving as well. So we have to focus first, because if we do all the lineup and setup, and then we focus, everything's gonna move.
It'll be off.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So again, I would, to get an average of like the space that we're gonna be covering here, I would probably pick something right around where the mag release is gonna be, yeah. And you'll just raise it up, pop your stick in, and then lower it back down until you're just touching. What's up, guys? What's up? So, yep, we're just getting Jason set up here today. Hey, Orhan, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming to visit. You feeling good about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this, again, should be good. So here's another thing too. When we're cheating on focus and we're taking advantage of that focal play, it's good to have a little more power. So wherever your aluminum setting should be around like 60, 70 probably.
Go off your cheat sheet.
All right, so the other thing you do, every time that you fill out those settings, you should just save it to your parameter library, because then you can just click and load.
Okay.
Like the next time you need to use it. So we'll have the cheat sheet here. And what we'll do is we'll come over to use default and uncheck it. So for aluminum on you, we want aluminum general, so a speed of 1,000. And a power of 64.
Well, my machine only goes in increments of
You can just
5.
type it. You can type it in.
Oh, can you?
Yep.
Okay.
And then your frequency is going to be 25 on this guy. So now all you have to do is, if we click select parameter from library right here, click that, and then just click current param save as. And then you can just call this aluminum general, right? And then it's there, and every time you need this setting, you can just call it up by selecting a parameter from library, and then it's going to autofill all of those for you, so you don't have to type it every single time.
Okay.
Which is really useful. So now you just click aluminum general and hit OK. And you're good to go. The next thing that we're going to do is, because we're cheating on focus, we want a little extra power. That way the stuff at the very top of that focal point and the stuff at the very bottom of that focal point appear to be engraved evenly.
Okay.
So we're going to take what we would normally be using for a flat object, which is 64, we're going to add like 20% power to it. We want to come up to like 84% on the power, so that we can really kind of like, you know, get through on the highs and the lows. You need that extra oomph to really take advantage of that focal distance.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and type like 84 in, should be good.
All right. Okay, so we're
So now we want to get like a nice outline, and this is kind of where you're saying like, there's so much happening at once, right?
right.
So all we need to do is up here, you can see, let's see, where's our blind? There it is. So you can see up here, mark loop is set to 1. That's just how many times it's going to run through these settings.
Correct.
So we're going to set that to 1,000, all right? And watch what happens when we come down here and we light this. If we look at the part, it's going to show just that outline first, and it's going to run that literally 1,000 times.
Okay.
So before it starts moving on to all those little pieces, because that's the problem, right? Is that it's showing the outline for a half
Correct.
second and then
Exactly.
everything else. So now we've got 1,000 runs of just that first line.
Yeah, that definitely
You
helps
just
show
have to
where the outline's
remember
gonna
to
be.
set it back before we mark it. You don't want to do 1,000 first. So we can see it's way too big, right? So if we're just going visually here,
Yeah.
you could probably take that down by about 50%. You can eyeball it. You'll just have to stop lighting before you start changing the size. Yeah, and then I would hit C on that and get it, yep, nice and center. And now we can light that, and it's still going to do our 1,000 because we haven't changed our mark loop, and we should get a nice outline on it. I think that looks a lot better, right? So we can kind of position that where we want it. Yes, 10/6s. Are these from 713 Maker? Or did they send these with your machine?
They came with the machine.
Oh, really? Those are neat ones. I like how they're kind of on like sliders there.
Still a little bit big.
Well, I like how his talons are kind of gripping the bottom.
Right
though.
at the
It's kind of
bottom.
cool, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just lose a little bit of the wing, but I think we'll be all right on the top.
Yeah, totally. Yep, I agree. So this looks really good, and we focused here, right? So this is kind of our middle point. It's not the highest point, it's not the lowest point. We're kind of in the middle.
Right.
And that should do really well. So the next thing we want to do is just group everything and hatch it. So we need to do our hatch next.
Okay.
And the standard hatch should be good for this. The .025 is usually great for anodizing and aluminum.
Okay. 0.025.
Yep, and we'll want to make sure that second hatch is on as well, so you'll click the 2 up there, and we'll just make sure that's still turned on, and that looks great. So now we can go ahead and hit OK. And that's it, man. Just run them.
All right.
And it should just climb right up over those curves. I'm feeling good about it already because the mag release area there is already higher. So we're in the lowest of the low points right now.
Right.
So we should climb right up over that wall. If not, we can do a little live focusing, and we'll talk about that as well.
Okay.
Oh, dude, you're killing it. This is perfect.
Yeah, those talons do grab the bottom of the. You know what we didn't do? Change the mark loop back.
That's okay. I'm pretty good at timing the stop button from messing that up about 80,000 times in my life. So we'll just let it do the other hatch here. It'll come back the other -45 now.
Yeah.
And that'll just clean it up. It'll get a lot of these grays like nice and white.
Okay.
And then we can run a steel white finish after we're done. And the steel white finish is gonna light that right up. It's gonna look really, really good when it's done. And you can just keep going. A lot of people ask me, how do you deep engrave on aluminum? You're doing it. You just have to keep doing it.
Keep
you know,
right.
30 passes of this, you're gonna be like 1.5 mil into the aluminum. You know, you just sit there and run it. It's a time game.
Right.
A lot of people want to do it in one pass, but the problem with one passing it with really, really tight line distances or really, really slow speeds, you get a ton of sparks and you get splash damage. So everything that the laser touched around the edges of that marking is going to have damage and sharp, jagged edges and burring on it. And that's really, really hard to clean up. If you just run marking passes repeatedly and you take the extra time to do it, you have a perfect engraving that doesn't need any extra work. It's going to be super deep.
So doing a type of material like aluminum like this, or even just on like a Cerakoted part, I would be good with this laser or this lens.
Yeah,
unless I wanted to get like a deep scroll engrave into
it seems to be doing okay. I'll show you. Let me run up front real quick, and I'll grab something that I did with the 110, so you can kind of see the stuff that you want the 110 to work on.
Okay.
When you want to do something like this, that's really where the 110 is going to do that 3 times faster than this. You know what I mean? And at some point you will reach a point on this lens where you're not removing material anymore.
Okay.
You're just kind of heating it up over and over and over again. So having the 110, if you want to do stuff like this, that's where the 110 is really, really going to shine.
Okay.
And again, like the 70 too, those NFA engravings, sure, you could do an NFA engraving in 30 passes with this lens, or you could spend $70 once and set up the 70mm lens, and then every time from then on you can do it in 3.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It's just like, it's kind of just like a time thing, and if you get really busy and you're doing a ton of them, it's going to be worth that extra
absolutely
$70 once.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you're fine right now, clearly. You know, you're doing okay. And this is where the 110 or the 70 would fail, is doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because my point is smaller, but my depth of focus is also way shallower, that depth of field.
Okay.
So it can't climb curves like this lens can.
All right.
Right?
Understood. Yeah.
Let's see, let's check on chat. What's up, guys? How's it going? Quiet on chat. You guys are just hanging back and listening, huh? We're doing some cool stuff right now. If you guys can see that, I think you can see it pretty well. It's really quite a climb up over that edge there. Just trying to give you an idea of like kind of how deep we're actually getting. Cool stuff. And then yeah, I mean, we can stop this. We can just sit here and let it run. You can stop it whenever you want. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, we're not going to go to 1,000, but if you want some depth to it, you want it to be like tactile. That's the other thing. Everybody and their grandmother has a CO2 laser. And if I take this right now and I put it in my CO2 laser, we can strip the anodizing off of that, no problem. But it's just a surface mark.
Yeah.
And the big thing that I see with guys with fiber lasers, you spent like $4 grand on this machine, $5 grand on this machine. Like, do stuff that you can only do with this machine. And that's like putting some depth into this piece.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So when you touch it, you feel it, it's there. It's got such a higher feeling of quality to it than something that you've just stripped the anodizing off.
Right.
So like, take advantage of it, you know? Put some depth into something, go hard. Because you have the machine that can do it. A lot of guys just go in, they do their one pass, and they're like, I'm done. Mm-hmm. You know, and like you can do so much more than that with this machine. It just doesn't make sense not to take advantage of it.
Right, I want an image that's going to last and not fade with the coating.
Exactly, and we're pretty substantially into this aluminum now, so we're doing really good. It's that 60 watts, that extra 60 watts is helping you out for sure.
Now you would suggest bumping that 20% up for any uneven part like
Hill
that?
climbing, yeah,
Okay.
hill climbing. It's not. It doesn't always have to be 20%. It's just kind of that was my gut instinct on this one.
Okay.
You play around with it. You know what I mean? Mess around with it. Try some different things. You might find different materials for different grades require different power boosts, and you get that with experience. You know, it just takes a little practice. I mean, one of the things too that you can do is you have some ability to live focus this too. So if you see we're at the very top of that hill, we're not quite getting it. See how much dimmer it is up there?
Yeah.
You can take it up just a little bit. I did an eighth of a turn. I literally took the handle from here to here. That's it. And if you do that too much, if you abuse that, you're going to get ghosting, double lines.
Oh.
Because again, as we focus away, we're changing the size of what's being engraved. So if you do it just a little bit, really slow, we've improved that hill. See how much more ablation we're getting?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
key. The live focus is key. Again, it's something that takes a lot of practice to know what the limits are of that. You'll get that through experience, but when we start back down at the talons again, it should be just as bright as it was before. So we kind of took our guess. We took our guess with the mag release, and we're just improving it just a little bit. It's a little bit of an improvement so that now everything is like really, really, really sharp.
Okay.
There's no double lines or anything, so that would be, I would call that a good live focus. Live focusing is like, that's like, you're rolling the dice. You know,
Right.
so you gotta use it really like tactfully. It's not like a willy-nilly fix for everything, but it does work. It's effective.
Yeah.
That's looking really, really good, man.
Now last week when I
What's up, Tyler?
messaged you about I was trying to set up my rotary,
Oh, the rotary.
and I was having all those lines.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Do you think a lot of that had to do with me using that ruler and tape?
It certainly wasn't helping. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely wasn't helping. You had so you were doing, was it tumblers that you were working on?
It was a tumbler, and what I noticed was it was one of the tumblers where it's smaller at the base and it gradually goes up
Yeah.
to 30 ounces.
Yeah.
And my image just barely went at the curve.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned it from black to where the curve was gold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I had the hatch mark lines all over it.
Yeah, yeah. And
I
it
mean,
wasn't
and
like,
it was just a tiny little bit of a curve, but just that much of a curve.
I've had, a lot of people will argue with me about this, but I have the best luck with the really small split sizes on the rotary. So like a split size, that is a fraction of my line distance, or a multiple of my line distance. So if my line distance is 0.025, which is what we're doing on this,
Mhm.
I would set my split size to like 0.5. And then I'm literally doing, or 0.05. And then I'm literally, every 2 lines that are being hatched, it's rotating once. It's
Okay.
slower, but it's much cleaner. And at the
Right.
end of the day, you'll get something like this. I'll show you this. This is the one that we did, just so you can see it in person. This is the one that we did for the episode. I mean, that's as good as I've ever seen it on raw steel. But
Yeah.
you can do stuff with the powder coated tumblers too.
Right.
If you defocus your laser a little bit, so you'd use your focal stick and then actually go a little further away, you're going to get enough energy to heat up the powder coat and remove it without enough energy to mark the
Mark
metal.
the metal.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
a good strategy as well. Though, honestly, and I've always said this to everybody, CO2 is the way to go for tumblers, usually, in my opinion. They just tend to work more consistently.
Right. Unfortunately, with the glow forge, I don't have that much of a depth.
Right. Yeah, the Glowforge is rough to work with, for sure. What's up? Tyler. Can't confirm. Use only 0.05 split size. Tyler only uses 0.05 when he's doing his rotary. So literally 2 lines for every rotation. Instead of
Okay.
doing big split sizes.
Right.
The bigger that split size is, the more focal difference you're going to have.
Yes.
Now you're heating the metal unevenly. So metals heated to one temperature are going to be one color. Metals heated to another temperature are going to be another color. And when you have that in such a broad stroke, now you've got kind of like a rainbow thing going on where things
Yeah.
don't match every time the cup is turning. So keep your split size really, really small and you're just doing a couple lines at a time,
Right.
those lines are guaranteed to be in the same focal. So you get at least a uniform.
Yeah, uniform color. That's what
Right.
I have to try instead of getting the gold to black to gold again as the cut curve.
Yep. Let's see how we're pretty deep. You can feel that pretty well.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Oh, and we stop right there. It's okay. It's all good. We should be alright. You got a little
A little bit of a line
a little
there.
bit of a line, but it's okay. It's alright. It looks sick though. That's a great test piece for sure.
Yeah.
Really clean.
Yep.
And you have the method now.
Right.
That's
right.
that's a major level up for you. So now
Exactly.
you can do these things like nobody's business with
Right.
just about whatever pattern you want. Even if you don't have fancy scrolls or stuff, I think like simple graphics like that kind of jump out of. Usually people when they do lowers like this, they're framing it in these little areas.
Right.
The fact that you can now jump out of that frame, that gives you an edge, man.
Sure.
That's a really cool new project that you can do.
And what was the process you were gonna say after we did this? We were gonna go
We
back
would just
over.
do it, yeah. So if we look on the Patreon parameters, so I would just follow that up with a aluminum white finish, which is actually identical. I said steel white finish, which is somewhere on here. Steel white finish. Those settings are actually identical. They're not any different. I just
Oh,
have
okay.
it. Yeah.
So we went from
we would-
aluminum general to aluminum white.
Yeah, and that just gives it that extra kind of crisp white to it. It fades over time anyway. The whiteness of it.
Yeah.
You're handling it. You're touching
Yeah,
it.
until you get
Aluminum
dirty.
soaks up your oils. They get dirty, but it's nice to give it to somebody bright white. You know.
Yeah.
But
for
even
sure.
even that looks great. Even if we didn't do that, I think you could leave it there and call it a day, and it would probably be fine.
Nobody would probably know other than us.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Here, do you mind if I show people real
Not at
quick?
all.
So this is what we were working on. If you guys want to see the final image here, it jumps right off of that, and there's just the tiniest little bit of a line where we kind of bumped it right there at the end, right in this area. But that looks awesome, right? How cool is that? Sohai says, I finally dialed in tumblers on the Rakis 50. Nice, good. Couldn't be happier. This dude will get more and more stoked as he goes. Totally. Tyler said Glowforge and then a vomiting emoji. It's rough. You can cut your own focus sticks though, so that's good.
Yeah.
That were at least easy
I
to
can
do
make
that.
cutting boards.
Yeah, yep. Just kind of inspect it. It looks really good, man. It looks really, really clean. And there's some different like hatch settings and stuff you can do too. I was just last night we were experimenting with the coin. I don't know if you saw any of that. The coin we were doing.
No.
We did a
didn't.
45 degree, a negative 45 degree, and then we added a 90 degree after that. And it took that cross hatch and like kind of turned it into like a triangle diamond pattern, and it was so fine. It was such a fine grain you like couldn't even see it. So there's stuff you can do, and you'll experiment. You'll see stuff like that on the Discord. But
Right.
yeah. And by the way, yes, I definitely think you can get away with doing NFA on this lens with your 60 watts. Just from what I've seen it do so far, like
Okay.
on that little thing, I think that would be fine.
Okay.
So that would be okay. I'd still get a small one because it'll do it faster. That took a while.
Well, sure, and I would like to get into some deeper engravings,
Mhm.
for certain jobs, but overall, I think I'll stick with this lens except for those specific.
Yeah, sure. Yep. So
Specific.
what else did you bring? What else do you want to work on?
I got, let's see. Might need your box cutter again.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. Wow, 18 people hanging out with us. Thanks, guys. What's up? It's good to see everybody. We started with acrylic. Now you got that aluminum dust. You can really kind of start to smell that. That smells really good. J-Max saying smash the like button. Smash the like button if you love huffing acrylic dust and aluminum dust. charging handle. Good, cool.
A little bit of a smaller piece. Not sure if I have any files that might be that work for this. But
Keith Ritchie says, quick question for the group. How much revenue can a fiber laser potentially make? I do understand this figure is relative, but what numbers are you all seeing? I'm going to let the group handle that one. It's all about your game, man. Machine's just a tool. It's like asking how much money you can make with a drill press. It really comes down to how you use it, what kind of products you want to mark, what kind of prices you're going to charge. Yeah, for real. It could be 0, it could be 500K, you know. It comes down to the person. The lasers are just a tool. So just to show you, felt how deep we got on that lower that we just did. This was an hour yesterday on steel with the 110. So steel is a lot harder to get through than aluminum too. So just kind of give you like a visual reference.
Right,
so
right.
You can get away with a lot more on a big lens with aluminum than you can on steel. I hope you guys are enjoying this special Saturday live stream that we've got going on. I know it's a little weird, it's a little different than what we normally do, but you know, offer a unique perspective into somebody who's trying to learn. We're trying to do some different things. We got a new machine in here, 60-watt Mopa from Style CNC, which seems like a good machine. I don't know about the staff over there. Seem a little weird, but you know, with their ruler method of focusing, but otherwise, you know, the machine itself seems like a quality piece of equipment, so that's nice.
Or we'll go with the
Day of the Dead on the little junker slide.
yeah.
Yeah.
The charging handle was a little too small for any of the images that I have saved. So
That could be a cool one too if you had like a big strip of like scroll. Then you would just lay, what I would do is like lay the charging handle down on the bed and then lay the entire scroll. I wouldn't try to outline it. I would just literally carpet the whole thing, and wherever it hits, it hits.
it's just
That kind of stuff would look really cool. I mean, look at my bed. You know what I mean? Like I do that kind of stuff all the time. My poor bed, but it works really well. It's a really good method for doing small stuff like that. But this case, yeah, we can definitely line something up on here. So the first thing I would do is get that on the bed. And then I would draw like an outline box, so that we can start, you know, so I've got the caliper over here. So you'd want to measure the area that you want to engrave on, and then we're going to make a box in software that size.
So, now, question for you.
Yeah.
Is it possible to just burn that clean and then start?
Yeah, I mean, you Cerakoted it, right? So we can totally just wipe the Cerakote from it, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where I would probably put the wording in this general area.
Yeah, sure.
Right there.
Yep. So we could definitely do that. So yeah, you'll just want to take a measurement of that total area so that we can make sure that we get that the right size first. The other thing that you can do with your fiber laser too, are you Cerakoting these or are you having them Cerakoted?
No, I do the Cerakote.
You do the Cerakoting? So
yeah.
Your engravings will survive Cerakoting. So you can engrave first and Cerakote after. It's still going to be there. You're not going to like cover your engraving up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
because the Cerakote's so thin. You know, that's what
Yeah.
makes it so cool is how thin it is.
Right.
And you will literally see it'll look factory, like you literally somebody shipped it to you that way. It's a
Okay.
really cool look. Some people like doing it in layers like this. A lot of people like seeing the metal through the Cerakote, like you're engraving straight through it.
Right.
One of my favorite ways to do it is do the engraving and then have it Cerakoted.
Okay.
Because then it's got, and you can mix and match. You don't have to pick one. But you
Right.
get like that. It looks like it came from the factory that way. Really cool look. Really,
Yeah,
really
then you
cool
can
look.
even color fill it too,
Yeah,
so
totally.
different colors.
Exactly.
So we'll be looking at about 64,
Okay, sure. Yep. So
64
yep,
millimeters.
64 wide, and then we got a height on that. About 20.
20?
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. So we just so what I would do is I would cut that. So Control X on the keyboard. We'll cut the artwork out. We can paste it back in when we're ready for it.
Okay.
And then we'll just create a square with our box tool, the little square tool there. And just drag it any size, it doesn't really matter how big it is. And then we'll just drop our dimensions in the dimension area up there in the top left.
Right here.
Yep, right up there. So we'll do X is going to be your width, so we do 64 in the X, and then 20 in the Y. And yeah, your proportions are locked there on the lock, so you'll want to unlock that lock, and then you can edit them independently. Yep, exactly. Perfect. And then just hit apply. Just underneath, yep. And then that's it. So boom. So there you go. And then you can hit C on the keyboard, and that'll center it up in your workspace. And then you can drop your slide on your work table up there, and we can F1 and light that up. Or you can click light. Yeah, either way, whatever you want to do. And then we just it's an eyeball game, right? So we just want to get it as straight as possible and cover that area as well as we can. One way I like to do it is I'll pick either the top or the bottom, whichever seems straighter, and I'll actually let the laser line rest along this top edge, and then we'll move it in EasyCAD once we're sure it's straight. We can actually bump it back up. I can go hit the lights too if it's a little, you're getting some reflection. It's pretty glossy black. How's that? Is that helping?
Yep.
Perfect. I'm going to grab, we don't want to puff burnt Cerakote, so I'm going to grab our fiber exhaust over here. That's working out. So, are you happy with that?
I think we're gonna need to move the
Yeah. So
bottom
we'll
up just a little bit.
just tap it up. So you can actually use the arrow keys on your laptop, and this will move it up and down and left and right, and you can literally watch it. And it might be that our box is just a little too small. So because now we're kind of coming off the bottom there, we
Yeah.
want full coverage because we're gonna engrave off all that Cerakote, right?
Yeah.
So we would actually add, so we can come down here to our 20, maybe just make it 25. You'll have to stop lighting to edit your fields. Perfect, and then we can light that one more time. Oh, and here's the other thing too. Since we threw our slide down on there, we haven't focused.
Focused, right?
Yep, so let's go ahead and get that focused too. You're gonna have to come up. down. Because that's also going to make our targeting box smaller, right? So we just want to make sure. Yeah, perfect. And that looks like a great size. I'm happy with that. If you're okay with a little overlap, a spillover
Yeah, that's fine.
on that, then we can go ahead and run this. We'll hatch this box and run this, and that's going to clean the Cerakote right off. The other thing you can do, if you want to do the whole slide at once, like really wipe the whole thing, is that what you want to do? Like clean all the Cerakote off the entire slide?
Well, we could.
Yeah, it's totally up to you. If you do want to do that, we can just take our box that we have right there and we'll just stretch the edges out, right? So that it covers the entire thing.
Okay.
It's not going to get all the Cerakote off because we're not going to get all these little bits and pieces
Correct.
inside, you know what I mean? Like on the rail and stuff like that. But it'll give us a clean working space to start. We can use our arrow keys and we can just tap it because we know it's straight, right? So we don't want to touch the part anymore, but we can use the arrow keys to bring it over to the left. Yep, exactly. And that looks really good. And then we might just want to take our bottom edge of our square and actually pull that down just a little bit. Because if we tap down, we're going to come in on the top. But if we grab the bottom node on the square and pull it down, then we'll just get the bottom of where it's going to grab onto the rail there. Alex, you should use this machine to do that Lambo plate you were doing yesterday. I would, but I need to be able to repeatedly do it. So I need an in-house solution for that. But that's a good suggestion. That's smart.
Should I bring that box down to lower the recoil, where the recoil spring sets?
Yeah, we can just come down
That
a
would
little bit
just
more.
take
Yeah,
it.
you've got the room and we've got the lens, right? So let's take advantage of it. So I'd say another. Yeah, that should do it.
Yeah.
You can see the. So here, I'll knock it back up where it was. So I'm not even looking at this anymore.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the laser.
Oh,
See how we're casting a shadow?
Yeah.
So I'm just, if I tap down one, that's it. Boom, shadow's gone. No shadows along the top. Everything's looking really, really clean. So now we can hatch our box.
Okay.
I'm just gonna make one more adjustment to up here. So if you look, I want you to see this. So if you look right as we come along this back edge here, see how it fades? We're just catching a little bit right on the side of the slide there.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna take it and I'm just ever so slightly gonna pop it down just like that until we get it kind of even on both sides.
Okay.
Just barely, I'm barely touching it, you know?
Yeah.
That looks really good. So that's perfect. So now we can hatch this. So we'll hatch this box, same standard hatch. Okay, Chase, we'll get on that.
Okay.
All right, and then I'll just fire this up real quick, and I'll hold it in place while you mark.
Now, as far as any parameters,
So parameters, aluminum general that we already have loaded in is going to do a great job just cleaning this off. So we can start with that and then maybe go to like a steel white finish to give us a nice clean working area. But first we just want to get that Cerakote removed. That's the big thing. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and mark it. No, you have to click. So you hit OK. Then you're just going to select aluminum general and then hit OK. And that's it.
all right.
Just like that, and then you just hit F2 when you're ready to go. See it off in the corner there?
Mm-hmm.
It's coming. There it is. And it's going to chew right through that. worth the trip so far?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Good. Burnt Cerakote fumes. Nasty, dude. Nasty stuff. I'm literally, it's worth this. Like, it's worth this extra work right now.
Yeah.
I'll just show you an old disc because it's like instant headache.
I'm lucky enough. I have a 4-foot paint booth in my shop, so I just kick that fan on.
Nice. Just sucks it all right
Just
out.
sucks it right out.
Yeah, this is less than an elegant solution that I've got in the shop over here, but it works well enough. Yeah. I see Hesse's watching from Germany. What's up, Hesse? That Batman's gone. And we're set to mark loop 1 on that.
Yes.
Perfect. I don't normally use mark loop either for setting multiple passes. I use the bottom loop counter down there. See where it says part and total?
Okay.
So the reason I do that is because if we set the mark loop to like 50, it's going to do 50 of the 45-degree pass, and then it's going to do 50 of the negative 45-degree pass. Whereas if we do it at the bottom, it'll do every other, right? So it'll do 45, negative 45. That counts as 1, then it'll move on to 2.
Okay.
So I like using that bottom one anyway. I only really use the loop mark for that lighting trick that I showed you. There's a few other circumstances that I would use it, but it's a little more advanced than what we're going to cover today. So just for getting started and kind of learning the basics of the machine, just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
The part and total is what you want to do for repeat passes, generally. You get what I'm saying though? So like with loop mark, it's like A, 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 B, B, B. The part total is like A, B, A, B, A, B.
Yeah.
I see Steam. What's up, Steam? Good to see you. See Mark. Hey, Mark. So it's going to have an interesting fade on it. So yeah, I mean, you know, do you have a media blaster, a sandblaster in your shop?
Yeah, aluminum oxide.
Might be easier.
Just a lot quicker.
Just for kicks and giggles.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, you can do this, but that's one thing that I'm like sorely missing here. It's just like a sandblaster would be like so nice to just sandblast stuff clean before we do some markings.
Yeah.
But you know, gets the job done. This is usually what I do here because I don't have any tools like that. So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Our square too, if we wanted to improve this in the future, our square is probably a little big because there's a lot of space on the top and bottom that we're not marking right now.
Yeah.
But also it's got, you know, it's not just a straight rectangle. It's got weird parts and bits hanging off the ends of it. And that's where if you get better at like Illustrator, you can make kind of custom shapes to do outlines like these that are going to be more efficient if you had to do, say, a lot of them for some reason or another. still. Live's loving this right now. We got 20 people watching. Ahoy! Never gets old, man. I've been watching this for years. Literally just like simple patterns like this.
Yeah.
Still can't look away. It's just entertaining. Now what we'll do when we're done with this, we can reduce this box and use that as our targeting for our new text that we want to add to this.
Okay.
Then we can hit that as hard as we possibly can. You can take this home and like re-Cerakote it.
Re-Cerakote it.
Yeah, that'll look sweet, dude. It'll look really, really good. Tape this. Actually, you wouldn't even really have to tape anything off. Once you do the engraving, you can probably take this back to your shop, sandblast the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's
this
not
one's
gonna
already
get
stripped, so
yeah, it's not
ready
gonna
to-
it's not gonna remove your engraving, right? So
Right.
you're in really good shape actually. This should be fine. And that's part of that like out of the box thinking. You know, a lot of people would see a part like this and they're just like, well, I'm just gonna engrave like a simple logo into the Cerakote. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, you can do so much more like precision, like manufacturing level stuff, you know,
Right.
with these machines. It's part of what makes them so valuable. You can see it's handling those little like grabbing, the little grip
Yep.
slits like no problem. And that's something where you get into like the 70, 110 area, you'd start like struggling with that a little bit. You'd have to get things like just right.
Yeah.
Here it doesn't care, it's just sweeping over.
Okay.
So as long as you're not going for depth. So I might even like, if I, for some reason, let's say you don't have the sandblaster, I'm just trying to give you use cases. If you didn't have the sandblaster, you had to do something like this. I would do something like this on the, you know, the 175 or the 200, and then I'd switch lenses actively, switch lenses in the middle of the job, go to like a 110 or a 70 to put the Day of the Dead stuff in,
Okay.
and like, you know, really chunk down on that,
Yeah.
and that should be it right there. And that's perfect. So we're done. The mark's run its course. It should be. Yeah, that's perfect. Now, since you're gonna sandblast this anyway, I don't think we need to deal with like an anneal or a steel white or anything like that. We
Yeah,
can just
right.
throw the engraving right in
Right
there.
on.
If you weren't going to sandblast it, I'd probably do like a steel white would really, really clean that
Clean
up.
it up.
Yeah, and we'd get rid of all that brown is carbon buildup from the laser doing its job. It's not going to matter when we're engraving into it, but it's ugly. So in that case, we would steel white it. You get like a really, really nice white finish.
Okay.
Then, you know, you could move on to whatever else you were going to do to kind of reseal that. But since you're sandblasting it, we don't really have to worry about that right now. So you can delete that box, and we can make a new one. Our original height, I believe, was 64 by 20. So I would just make a whole new box, 64 by 20, instead of trying to deal with like the hatch.
Okay.
Or you could do undo hatch would be fine too, which is right there.
Okay.
Yep, and then just grab your box, select your box, and then resize again. So we would just do, once you unlock the proportions, they stay unlocked until you lock them again. So you don't have to click that every time either.
Okay. So that's 64
Yep,
by.
still locked though.
We're at 24.
Yeah, we're just a little low. I'd probably hit escape and then hit C to center it back up because it does look like we're a little low. You'll have to select the square for the C to work. Yeah, and then we can try lighting it there. bring that top and that bottom in just a little bit. Because in this case, we have artwork that we want to do, right? So we're just trying to get an accurate framing, and we're trying to keep things straight. Cool tip, if you hold shift while adjusting those nodes, it'll shrink it from the top and the bottom at the same time so that everything stays center, which is really helpful. So you just hold shift, click, and then drag, and you can see you can drag in or pull out, and it'll do it equally to both sides,
Okay.
which is really useful. What's up, Alex? Good to see you, man. How's it going?
Come down.
That bottom one's on point, so I might just grab the top node alone and just pull that one down maybe a millimeter or two, and you should be right on point.
I think it needs to come down.
Yeah. Yep.
Ah,
Uh-oh.
I deleted it.
Control Z.
Was that Control Z?
Yeah, Control Z. Perfect. It's fighting you, man.
Yeah.
It's
It'd be
so
so much
weird.
easier with the mouse.
I know, the mouse. Trackpad's garbage. I think see now. There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. And now you've got your, so the next thing you want to do, I'm going to slip around you again. The next thing you want to do is Control V is paste. So Control V. And boom, there's your artwork. Now all you got to do is fit your artwork inside your target. You're good to go. And then we'll hatch that up and you'll basically be set. Okay, so here's something, right? So you can see it's skewed, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want it that way? Did you do that on purpose?
Well, I did to
Fill the space.
fill the space.
Fill the space. So this is a point of contention amongst engravers and graphic designers in general. I am like a strictly I refuse to skew anything ever for any reason kind of guy. But there are plenty of people that skew stuff all the time to fill specific spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue all day about which one is right and which one's wrong. I'm just sharing my opinion on it. I never skew anything. So
Okay.
I will literally force whatever I'm working on. Like I will find a good way to say it would be like, so up here, if we look in this area right here, we kind of have like this angle that comes down.
Yep.
We start angling off on the back. But the graphic itself, unskewed, if we look at it unskewed, is almost the perfect size to fit right back here. You know what I mean? And it's not going to be as big,
Yeah.
but then we're not doing a deep engraving on a slant either, and it kind of looks like it's got its own little like house here, like
Okay.
cut out just for it.
Yeah.
So in that situation, like rather than skewing it, I would probably adjust my plans and go for like that.
Go for that area.
Go for that
versus-
area, right? So I would adjust my target and then resize for that area and go as big as I can in that area, and then we don't have to skew anything.
Okay.
Skewing just looks like you gave
Stretch.
up. You know what I mean? Like, like whatever. Like I'll just make it fit,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Okay.
So again, that is 100% a subjective opinion. That's not a fact, and that's certainly not a hard rule. It's just you're here, so I'm just letting you know.
It's gonna look right.
Yeah. Hey Alex, JMac asks, what width is Jason's fiber table? Looks nice and wide. It looks. identical to mine, which means it should be pretty close to yours, JMac, but I can grab the ruler and measure for you. Unless yours is really skinny for some reason, bro. It's about 340 millimeters, 34 centimeters-ish, give or take. Alex Campbell's doing online courses, but listening to lasers to stay sane. Sounds like a good plan, man. So if this was me, so what I would do is I would arrow key over until we hit that corner, like right up here, that corner, and then our laser's coming straight down. And then once that's done, then I would grab this center node and I would drag our box to meet, and then we'll get like a nice square. Yeah. Yeah. So I would start on that left node, that left center node, and then pull it over. Box looks like it's the right size. The whole thing just has to come over now, yeah. It's really, really close.
Yeah.
So now all you have to do is you can. So if we get out of the lighting, you can just click the Day of the Dead, like the actual artwork. You might have to click off everything first. EasyCAD, you can get a little weird about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then hold Shift and select that outline box.
Okay.
One second. Let me see. So with Day of the Dead, Shift. I want to grab it somewhere it's not overlapping with the bounding box for Day of the Dead.
Oh,
like
okay.
right there,
Yeah.
And then what you can do is you can come modify, align, center, and it's going to snap it right to the center of your target.
Alright.
Then we can get rid of the target. So we'll come up here, we'll grab the target, and we will delete that. And we can light our it's like F3, so we'll light that. So now, so we have the mark loop set to 1,000. In this case, I probably wouldn't use it because it's such a small graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Having everything light through really quick is actually going to let us see like the entire layout of the text.
Okay.
So I'd probably do this at mark loop 1, just because it's small enough, right? Really big areas take a long time for the galvos to trace, but really small areas, it can do it really quick. So if we just set that to 1 and we light it, you'll be able to see right here. If I can find the
Now, how
cursor
did
again.
you get rid of the box around it? What did you?
I just hit delete.
Oh.
I just selected it and hit delete on the keyboard.
Okay.
So we like that. So now you can see it. This gives us a really good idea of where it's going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And then all we need to do is just get it off the slant there. We've got a little more working space
Yeah.
down here. So I would just arrow keys, right? And we would just bring that over. Probably just like two more turns. Yeah, that's maybe one back. Might be a little overdoing it. The other thing I want to adjust for you really quick, you shouldn't have to do this too often. I noticed that when you use the arrow keys and you tap to move something, it's going it's like really flying super far. So if we do move and rotate in your settings here, you can set how far it's moving every time you.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's at 1 millimeter right now. I might do like 0.5, and that'll help. So. And then what the big nudge is if you hold Shift and hit the arrow keys, it's multiplying the top number by the bottom number. So 0.5 times 10, so it would move 5 millimeters.
Okay.
Which is fine for the big nudge. So now if we light this, and we use the arrow keys, you'll have a little more fine adjustment. I don't think we need to move
I
it,
think
but
it's good there, yeah.
like if I did, for example, so now if I hit the right, like we have, it's just finer control. That's all we did. So we know we're in focus. We've got it lined up. We found our target area, somewhere that's going to fit really well.
Right.
We did somewhere we didn't have to skew it. It's fitting perfectly. We've gotten rid of our outline, so we don't need to worry about marking that by accident or anything.
Right.
So next we need some settings. And I think for this one, the steel deep engrave is probably the way we're going to want to go, because we are Cerakoting this, right?
Correct.
So we want to hit this deep and pretty hard. You're going to want 1900 speed.
Okay.
And we're going to want 72 power. We don't need to make an adjustment to this power because we're not going over any curves.
Okay.
25 frequency. And then all we need to do is just switch to, so when I'm deep engraving, the unidirectional hatch, so if we select Day of the Dead, we'll just want to hatch that real quick. So the unidirectional hatch is really slow. It's really good for fine details, but we're trying to get depth.
Okay.
So just click it once, and that'll take us to the bidirectional hatch. So it's going to engrave as it's moving this way, and then when the mirror is on its way back, it's also going to engrave. So it's going to go twice as fast. So that's really good for depth.
Okay.
So on that one, we're good. Our line distance is good. We just want to check hatch 2 and make sure that hatch 2 is also set to the bidirectional hatch. So one click there. Perfect, and hit OK. And we want to set, we know we're doing multiple passes. So we'll probably come down to our total number, set that to maybe, I think, starting at 20, and then we can reassess would be a good place to start, and then just click R to reset your part number value to 0. So we're starting at 0, otherwise we'll be starting at 1.
Gotcha.
And with that, I would take one last light. I always do one last light with the red light and just look at it, make sure everything's exactly where I want it. And once that's done, we can mark it.
Yep. Good to go.
Yeah, Steve, it's a 60 watt. Let me just let this thing do work. So in this very specific situation, another time like the 70 would be great, because our graphic is like what, an inch and a half maybe tops wide.
Yeah.
And the 70 is going to give you a 3-inch workspace. No real reason to use the 175 when the 70 we're going to get 3 times the power out of it for the same settings.
Okay.
So, but it'll do for today. It'll definitely get the job done. It's just going to take a little longer.
Right.
Might end up doing, I think, somewhere probably, if I had to guess, just based on what I'm seeing here, probably around 60 passes total.
Okay.
And we should have a Cerakoteable depth to it. But luckily, it's a small graphic, so it's going fairly quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the camera making it look wide. It's also, the camera is positioned to the side of the machine, not the front like we usually do when we're doing our streams and stuff. So you're looking at it from the side. kind of the same concept with the deep engraving here too. We could go really, really slow or do like a really, really tight line distance, but it's going to cause more sparking and splash damage. You can already see we're getting a fair bit of sparks now.
Yeah.
Every single one of those sparks that ends up hitting that slide is going to cause an additional bit of damage around the outside.
Yeah.
You just don't want that. So as clean as we can possibly do it. So we can take a look at this now. We're already getting a decent amount of depth. It's not amazing, but it's getting there, and it looks really good in that spot. That's really, really clean. So I would just say I'd load up another 40, and just hit it with another 40, and we should have something appreciable.
An additional 40.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I know I'm like beating a dead horse here, but like we would be 3 times further into this process with the 70 right now, right? So it's more about like just utilizing your time effectively.
Right. Well,
you've got 60 watts. It's a shame to lose a lot of that to a huge work area that you're not using, especially on firearm parts. It's really cool if we wanted to put a pattern over the entire slide. This is the perfect lens for that. But anything localized like this, you're just wasting your own time.
Now, going with the 110 lens, would I still be able to do a pattern over the entire slide?
If it fits within 110 millimeters.
Got it.
That 110 of the 110 lens means you get 110 millimeters wide by 110 millimeters tall.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, as long as I don't think that it would fit. So I don't think this specific slide would fit in a 110 by 110 workspace. It's about 4 inches.
Yeah. And this is actually one of the smaller.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you need the bigger lens. It has its purpose. Mm-hmm. Just depends on the kind of work you're doing.
Yeah.
With lasers, man, when you're really trying to start making money, it comes down to speed, big time. You know, you want to get things done. You want the best looking thing possible, but you also want to not senselessly lose a bunch of time, especially if you only got one fiber laser. You know, you don't have 4 of these things going at once.
Exactly.
It's gonna start to hurt. That stuff's gonna add up when you start getting busy, and you will get busy.
Right.
You know.
That's the plan, hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, you will. If you make it even just semi-known that this exists and you have it within driving distance of your customers, you will be busy.
Good.
Yep. All right, cool. Let's take a look at that. I like to side light it. Gives you a really good idea. So you could do another 40 on top of that if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is officially Cerakote survivable.
Okay.
So if you Cerakoted this, that would still be there. You'd still be able to see it. I might do. It's not taking that long. It's going pretty quick. I would probably say. Just hit it with another 40.
Another 40. Okay.
Just to be safe. And then we can take a look at that. Did you hit reset?
Nice.
So what are you using for like vector editing?
Right now, for what I've been doing is just pulling images off the internet and converting them in. There's a website, Convertio.
Mm-hmm.
I just convert them over to SVG or.
Got it. Yeah, you'll want to invest in something.
I have Illustrator.
Oh, you
on
do?
here.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
but I've been kind of giving that to my son. My son's the Illustrator genius, not me. So I just tell him, "Hey, do this for me."
Yeah, because Illustrator is going to be key, especially if you want to start doing like precision outlines on things.
Well,
like,
that's the thing. I want to get into the stippling, and I know I'm gonna need it for that.
You are. Yeah, you absolutely are. And the best way to do it, man, is you take your phone, you get its level. Sometimes I even put a level on my phone as you can over the part. You don't want the part edge to edge in your camera frame because camera lenses are spherical. So when you get out to the edges of your lens, it's bending. It doesn't look bent to you, but it's bending. And then when you bring that trace in to EasyCAD, it's not going to line up. So you get it so that your part is taking up maybe a third, the middle third of your frame, when you're taking your photo. Snap your photo and you bring it into Illustrator, then all you have to do is grab the pen tool and you can just click, 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 and you'll draw the outline around the shape. And then you have a perfect outline you can bring into EasyCAD to line things up, which is really helpful. I'm going to be doing some videos on that too. It's a really complicated topic, and it takes a lot of practice to be able to do it without referencing something. But once you get it down, it's, especially for you with the this kind of stuff, it's going to be second nature to you. It's just something you're going to have to practice.
Right. Now, from what I'm hearing, what I'm understanding is doing the stippling only works for black frames. A lot of people have a lot of issues trying to do the FDEs and the other colors.
Stippling works the best on name brand Glock polymer.
Right.
Period.
Okay.
Other brands that don't use the Glock's got like the special sauce,
Yeah.
And when you start venturing outside of that, instead of engraving, the thing that makes Glock polymer so cool is that you're actually engraving away that polymer. So just like we are on the metal, you're engraving it away.
Okay.
Every other kind of polymer frame out there, you're doing a controlled melt, which is very different.
Okay.
And that's where your MOPA, the MOPA features of your laser, really going to help you out because you get a massive frequency range. Do you know anything about laser frequency?
Not really.
Okay, so the CO2 is a continuous wave laser, which means when the laser fires, the beam is on and it's just there until it stops firing and then the beam's off.
Okay.
These, even when it seems like it's always on and it's always doing something, it's actually pulsing really, really fast, like a film strip going through a movie projector.
Okay.
Right? There's frames, and the frequency is how many frames you're getting per second out of your projector. In this case, it's your laser projecting down onto your thing.
Okay.
So how fast are we pulsing? The faster you pulse, the less energy you can deliver downfield, because the pulse is quicker, right? It's a limited amount of time, you can only deliver a limited amount of energy.
Right.
That's really, really great for plastics, because if you over-deliver energy to a plastic piece, it like melts or catches on fire or bubbles up or turns purple or whatever it does because it's plastic. So you get now, with your MOPA, normal fiber lasers like a cheapo Racus, you're going to get 50 to 100 kilohertz. That's just what they come with, or 25 to 80 or 25 to 60. It depends on the machine. With your MOPA unit on your M7, you get 1 to 6,000 kilohertz.
Okay.
So you get a massive frequency range that's really going to allow you to start experimenting with different polymers and plastics.
Okay.
High frequency, dude. You want to turn that way up because, like I said, if you're not doing name brand, not P80 kits, if you're not doing name brand Glock polymer, you're not engraving. You're doing a controlled melt.
So like a SIG or any other.
Yeah, you're literally melting it down layer by layer and like vaporizing that plastic into like a plastic vapor, and that's getting carried away by your exhaust or whatever. On the Glock polymer, you're actually engraving, but on anything else, you're melting, and you got to keep that in mind when you're choosing settings for it.
Now, when you're doing the stippling, do you recommend taking off the original stippling? I've seen some do and some don't.
I'm not a stippling master. In my experience, when I've done it in the past, I haven't done any prep work for it. Usually, because it's the fiber laser is more in focus at the top of the stipple than it is at the bottom of the stipple, so it ends up leveling itself out by the time you're actually finished.
Gotcha.
If you go far enough. If you don't go far enough, you're still going to see the old stuff. You know what I mean? So it kind of depends. How confident are you with the other tools in your shop to remove the existing stuff? If you're feeling really confident about your ability to flatten everything out and smooth everything out with tools that you have at your disposal, I would do that first.
Okay.
But if you don't feel good about doing that, or you don't, you just your sanding game's not on point, or like you can't blast it the way you want to blast it in order to get it smooth, then you're still okay just doing it in the laser. You just have to pay extra attention.
That covers the. Okay.
Yep. And this looks really good. That's chunky, right? So you can see that now. Now we're really starting to remove material from that.
Yes.
That looks really good. The last thing we should do on this is hit it with an anneal. I know that you're going to Cerakote this anyway, but here's the deal. When we're engraving, especially when we're deep engraving, we're creating, because the fiber lasers pulse, right? So we're pulsing. Every time we pulse, it creates a valley, which inherently creates peaks. And those peaks and valleys collect moisture from the air. It wicks moisture out of the air. And if we leave it alone, it's going to basically get wet and rust.
Corroded.
Yeah, it's going to corrode. So we're going to anneal that. And what the anneal does basically is it's heating the metal up super hot, and it's cutting the tops off those peaks.
Okay.
So that's going to reseal this. It's not always great for long term, though. Sometimes people bring in like blued steel, things like that. I'll anneal it as a finish, and then I tell them, if you take this to the range, if you take it out camping or whatever, when you get home, you put a coat of 3-in-1 on it. Like that's just kind of part of my regimen.
Yeah.
But the anneal is really good. It's the second best thing to getting it re-blued or Cerakoted or whatever. We're going to do it now just to protect it in the interim between now and when you Cerakote it, so that you don't have, the last thing you want is rust under your Cerakote. So, that would be.
So let me save these parameters here.
Yeah, so let's do that. So,
so what I would do is parameter name.
You would do select parameter from library.
Okay. Parameter from library.
And then it would be current param save as, and that's going to save whatever you have currently as your new parameter.
Okay, and then we did that just.
This one is a steel deep engrave.
Okay.
All right, and then you can hit cancel. And that'll save in your library. And now we're going to grab our anneal settings.
Okay.
So for the steel anneal, you're going to want a speed of 330, power of 24, and a frequency of 190. And this is
190?
Yeah, this is why you're glad you bought a JPT, because if you didn't have a JPT, you would not be doing this right now.
Okay.
So this is really going to help you out. So with that done, we can save this one too. You can go to the select param from library and current param save as. Yep. And then we'll just steel anneal. Just kind of the general steel anneal. And then run it. One pass should be good with the crosshatch.
Okay.
Hey Nor, I would check out, we have a video on the channel. It's called the Ultimate Gold Engraving Guide. It's not that old. I would go watch that video. That'll show you how to get the darkest mark you could possibly get on 18 karat gold. So I would go watch that. Yeah, Mark, we talked about frag out already. And yeah, if we light this up now, you're going to see the color of the metal has changed pretty significantly. got kind of like that pearlescent shine to it. That means that we annealed it successfully. So this is safe now, and you can pull it from the bed.
All right.
That's all there is to it.
That's good.
Yep, it's gonna look great when it's re-cerakoted, obviously. And you can blast that all day. You're not gonna like remove the engraving from it or anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's gonna look really, really good.
Okay.
So there's steel slides, right?
Yeah, great.
Another thing, another tool in your belt.
Okay. Well, not sure what left that I have. Well, I have lots of metal, and I have a cerakoted frame, but I don't have any the stippling patterns. So.
Gotcha. I mean, we could do. Is that name brand Glock?
Yeah, this is a Glock.
Yeah. I mean, we could do like a gentle logo into the side just so you can get a feel for the settings. Unless you don't want to, like, if this is a one-off frame, you know what I mean?
Oh no, this is just the frame to that slide that we just did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can mess around with it if you want.
I'll tell you what, I got a Day of the Dead sugar skull.
Okay. Yep.
Maybe we can do that.
Right there on
Right.
the, into the grip.
Yeah.
Sure. We can do that right now.
All right.
Yep.
Let me pull that file.
Yep. So you can pull that up, and then you'll throw the frame on the bed and get it focused, and I'll read you off some settings, and we'll watch and make adjustments. If we need to make adjustments to those settings, we can do that. Steve Barden asks, what about the JPT 50 watt non-MOPA? Do you still get a reasonable frequency range? Yeah, mine is the 30 watt JPT non-MOPA, and it's you still get 1 to 400, or no, 1 to 600 kilohertz on that. So it's not 1 to 6,000, but still substantial improvement over the standard, 25-ish to 100-ish. Big improvement there. Nick Sloan is asking for a YouTube video tutorial on the outline method. Yeah, I can absolutely do a simple one for you. No problem. We can definitely get that on the channel. There goes the frame. It's on the bed. gonna blow right through the Glock logo. It's okay if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I think that looks pretty good. So these are, I would just like to, disclaimer, these settings come from the experimental zone.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, I remember.
I haven't 100% dialed these in yet, but they have worked well for me in the past.
All right, well, we'll
So,
find out.
Yep, we're gonna find out, and we'll do one pass at a time.
Okay.
Glock's pretty easy to save. So if we don't like the way something comes out, the next pass can just kind of erase it like it didn't happen, which
Right.
is really nice. So here we go. Glock polymer engrave setting. There's a stippling setting and an engrave setting. I would classify this as an engraving
Okay.
because it's got big, fat, open areas. That's another thing. So when you have a really wide open area that you're engraving through, you know, it's got the laser has a long distance to travel. By the time it gets to the end of its line, the stuff back here is already starting to cool down, and that changes the way your engraving works. So
Okay.
when you're stippling, you're doing a bunch of really tight, small little areas, and those stay hot while
So
you're
you
working
have a
on them.
higher chance of
Something
melting.
like this, we're coming all the way across that skull, right? And we're really starting to let the plastic that we just hit cool down by the time we come back to it for the next round, which is why we have different engrave and stipple settings. Engrave stuff is more for those big open areas. They require a little less speed and a little more power,
Mhm.
and the stipples, it's a lot tighter, so it stays hotter, doesn't need as much.
Okay.
Doesn't need as much juice. So that's kind of an explanation on that.
Okay.
So the Glock polymer engrave, we're starting at 2000 speed, 24 power,
Okay.
and 190 frequency.
All right.
And we're doing our crosshatch 45 on that. So just want to make sure that that's hatched correctly. You know, you're not getting oh, was it not hatched at all yet?
No.
Okay, cool. So I would switch back to the unidirectional for this on your hatch pattern there. Yep. And for hatch number 2 as well. And you can go ahead and hit OK. And that looks good, man. You know, we'll get the exhaust going.
All
I
right.
want to breathe in a bunch of plastic, and we should see. Sorry, that was the hose there. We should see some success. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we get.
All right. I better change that. And there's going to be one pass.
Just wanted to start. We'll reassess and make changes to our settings if we need to. Sounds good. You can hear it. Seriously, man, when it's going well, you can hear it. That's something we'll want to fix. So we want to make sure. Actually, we're not. Okay, that wasn't marked properly, so that's good. So we can go ahead and light this up. There you can see it. And great color, really bright. I think we're probably a little high on our power, and we'll want to. Definitely think our power is a little high. I don't want to touch it. I wish I could feel it. Let's take our power down just a little bit more, maybe to like 20. down to 150, just making small adjustments for your machine specifically. And speed, let's bring it up to 2500. I'm trying to deliver less power, right?
Right.
I think it's a little chewy.
Okay.
We don't want chewy. Let's try it again. The thing that we're really struggling with right now are the little bits of the sugar skull where they're really, really fast and quick. Don't seem like they're resolving well. You see that kind of out there? Is that how it is in the graphic? Or like the teeth, like how it's kind of speckled like that? Is that the graphic or is that?
I'll have to look at it once it's on the hatch.
Yeah, I'm curious. Getting. Hey Anand, what's going on? I'm gonna look something up real quick too, Jason, that might help us out.
It may be the file itself, the vector, because it is kind of really tight up at the top. Kind of, it's not defined. The same with the teeth at the edge. Not 100% defined.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what else too? It's Cerakoted. I didn't even think about that. It is Cerakoted.
Correct.
So maybe we should. Maybe we should hit it a little harder. I feel confident about doing these bigger parts the way that we've been doing them. That's what we want, and the more we hit this, the more it's going to shave away layers, and we're going to start to really see like that kind of like depth on that.
Right.
It's just the little bits. I just don't want like those to get all melted out, you know?
Yeah.
Let's try, let's bring your frequency down just a little bit more, and if that doesn't work, maybe 125. If that doesn't start looking better, we'll start going the other way with it. And let's bring the speed up to 3000. And let me check the sheet here. Let's take the power to 32. Let's give this a try. trying to adjust to your lens on the fly.
Mhm.
You will find very quickly when you get your smaller lenses in that they're very different.
Yeah.
It's like a new machine. You know, every time that you get a new lens, you're like learning the machine all over again. And yeah, you have the patron file converter. You know, that helps to a point, but there's a lot of this too. Let's just set it to maybe 8 passes. And we'll just let it run for 8. We'll take a look at it because I like the way this is sounding and looking now. Ideally, it should be like a mild thing that you have to do kind of repetitiously to get to the depth that you want to get. It's almost not looking like enough power. You can't tell if it's just the glasses. It looks very weak. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but
Now, do you think these settings are different because this is cerakoted versus the actual block
at
polymer?
first, I think I was a little more excited than I should have been because it was engraving away the cerakote, and I just wasn't realizing that we hadn't quite made it to the plastic yet. But I think the biggest difference, I mean, it's a very different machine, and you've got an M7 in here. It's a 60-watt M7. The settings were developed on a 50-watt IPG and then converted for a 30-watt JPT. LPE unit, so it's just a different laser, way different lens than what I'm usually working with.
Right.
So we're close. Like I said, the Patreon settings get you really close.
Yeah.
This is very close to what you want to be happening. It's just gonna need some dialing in.
Sure.
And the best way to do that is to mess with that. I don't know if you saw the OT defense post that I made about the they sell like chopped block.
Oh yeah, the parts.
Oh dude, so
You can only buy one at a time.
You can only buy one at a time.
Right.
I literally got my mom and my brother both ordered one and even mailed them to me. But like, I just, having like those test parts,
Yeah.
you gotta spend weekends doing this. It's just kind of part of the game.
That's why I brought this. This was just a junk lock. And,
Yeah.
if it turned out good, fine. If not,
You can tell it's darkening, which is good. That's what we want. But if you do it the right way, it should be the same color as the polymer is, like originally.
just black.
Yeah, it should be pretty black. After this pass, hit escape on the keyboard to stop it, like watch it, and just wait for it to hit that corner, and then hit escape. And then let's bump the power up to 50. I think we're really fighting the lens here a little bit.
So you think the smaller lens would
Probably
be more
require,
beneficial
yeah, I think
for something like this?
perhaps, yeah. I mean, you can definitely fit a Glock frame into a smaller lens's field. So, I'm usually in most situations I'm pro smaller lens unless you physically need to use a bigger one.
Okay.
But that's just me. Again, it's smaller dot size, right? We've got that big fat dot size right now that we're trying to like do work with. And
Yeah.
I think it's interfering. So, yeah, if you're ready, go ahead.
8 again, or you want me to go
let's
to
do
1?
Let's go to 1. It's just for doing science. This is at 50.
Yes.
Alright, good. Yeah. Another thing that you can experiment with too, and it's kind of beyond what we're doing today, and I don't want to put too much on your plate at once, but another thing you can experiment with is line distance. A lot of plastics and polymers, wider line distances tend to yield better results, so not having the lines so close together so that you're not out overlapping lines.
Okay.
Can really help you. But this is looking good. I like the 50 power. Let me take a close look at this without the comments. Yes. So now we're actually starting to stipple into it. See that there?
Yeah.
On the top and bottom there.
Yeah.
We're actually like starting to make a dent a little bit. So let's what I'm gonna do is let's grab your hatch and let's take our line distance down just a little bit to like 0.05. So now from 0.025 to 0.5 or 0.05, we're twice as far apart. Those lines are twice as far away from each other as they were with the 0.025 and 0.05 on both of those. And let's give this a try. Same power, same settings. One pass. Let's do one pass on that and see how that does.
All right.
Basically, the process that we're going through right now, like the way I'm thinking, that's the most important thing. Like how to find settings. You know, this is
Yeah.
the journey I go on to fill those sheets out.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing. You know, and if I can teach people to think this way, you're gonna have really a good time. One touch. So you can see the smaller areas. This is-
The eyes and the
They're-
teeth.
they're getting
are
deep.
Getting deeper, right?
They're getting deep, and the bigger areas are not. So in this case, what I would do, if this was like a customer's job and I was like, oh shit, it's not like going evenly and I'm freaking out, what I would do is I would remove all of these small areas from the hatch and then rehatch the larger areas because they clearly need to go deeper and they clearly need more power. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I would break this whole thing down. We can do it right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to break this entire vector down here. We're going to zoom in on it. So we'll ungroup. You don't have a view object list. This is important. Your object list. Have you ever seen the object list before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
But
good.
sometimes I lose it.
Yeah. So any of these windows, any of them at all, can be found under the View tab. And then if it's just unchecked, all you have to do is check it, and it'll pop it right back into its place where it was. But if you ungroup the hatched thing and delete the group, you get left with your outline again.
All right.
Which is pretty rocking. So we're going to ungroup this, and let's just try to maybe get rid of. And this is where like Illustrator would be really useful right now. To actually edit this, you know, and then resize it and bring it in. But we can get rid of these.
So you're just basically clicking on the parts you want to remove and just delete them and leaving what we want to.
Exactly. It's all good. Because we're getting really deep on those small parts, you know?
Yeah.
We don't want to blast through the damn thing, so we'll probably put it here. We'll just remove all of these. Those. You don't want to confuse yourself either, because like in this case, like the teeth are being engraved, but what we don't want to do is delete things like these circles, because these circles are actually areas that aren't being engraved,
Right.
whereas the bone of the face is. So you have to be careful about what you're leaving and what you're getting rid of when you're making those selections. It just behaves different in like weird ways. And I'm just assuming that it behaves like that snap. Like, why does it do that? That drives me nuts. No wonder you're having a hard time selecting things. Oh my god, it's so much better. Okay. That makes a really big difference. Alright, so with that done, you can see, am I missing anything?
I think it may be right
The side bits
right
there.
there.
Yeah, these should be separate, so we should be able to just select those and get rid of them. That looks better, right?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hatch this separately. We haven't moved the part. Oop, should've done that. We haven't moved the part, so we're going to just rehash this and run it like this at the higher power. So we're not going to be pushing down the parts that we've overdone anymore. We're only doing that part. And in the future, what I would recommend when we're using this lens on this machine is probably isolate those smaller parts early, like before we even start.
Okay.
And then we're going to use different settings for them, right? So I would use a gentler, lighter setting with maybe more passes for the smaller areas, and the big swath like this,
Yeah.
we would use something a little higher powered, but not as many passes.
Okay.
So now I'll grab the exhaust and we can try this. Just making sure nobody walked in. I don't know why my doorbell's going off. Alright. Okay, so we can probably go ahead now with the pass or the settings that we have, and we can mark that as is. We should see an improvement. The real issue with this big space is the cooling down. That's the thing, right? So I think I see another thing I want to just change really quick. I know this is a lot of work, right? But we're gonna get there. I want to again ungroup this and let's get rid of the eyes because those are looking really toasty and done. So we'll just get rid of the eye rings there too. Because those are starting to look really deep, right? So, and then same thing, we're just going to group it again. We're going to hatch it again. And let's turn the heat up here. Let's go to 65. We've got to make up for that cooling effect. We don't want that polymer cooling down anymore. Whenever you're ready. This is part of the reason why I don't just have a Glock stippling setting.
Yeah.
You really gotta kind of know your machine, and it varies a lot. So I definitely left them in experimental on purpose.
More passes. It definitely got darker.
I think so. Let's do another maybe 8. Try to catch up to the smaller sections. Everybody's like, do a stippling episode. I just don't know how helpful it'll be, you know? It's not that easy. Probably also, you're very right to ask me earlier. You're probably also going to have a little bit of an easier time seeing definition if you had processed this before trying to engrave it,
Yeah.
with the old stuff. And like I said, eventually it will flatten out. But if you are confident in using those tools to get it to a neutral state before starting this process, you're going to have an easier time.
Okay. Yeah, I have no issues with getting it to that point. I just didn't know if one was better than the other.
This is why. Now you're seeing, right? Because that old stippling pattern in there, the peaks of those stipples are cooking slower than the base, and
Right.
it's just like it's a thing. halfway there. This should do some good work to even us out. It's 100% less about the settings and just it's more about being able to like have some critical thinking skills to think your way out of issues like this.
Right.
Even when I'm just messing around, I kind of like to pretend a little bit in my head that like someone's coming to pick this up, you know, and like it needs to be good for them because I don't want to buy a new block frame, and that's really like those kind of critical thinking skills are what's going to help you succeed with this machine. It's not like anything else that you own, you know. It's not like a sandblaster.
Right.
It's not like a drill press. Like these things have a mind of their own, and you need to be able to read that mind and adjust on the fly based on the kind of results you're getting. And that's just the way it is. And that's what makes the difference between somebody who's good with this machine and somebody who just owns one. Might be walking away with some decent stipple settings. That's much better. Right? Can you see? Can you see that detail?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you want, right? And we probably could have done a few less passes, but we really needed that extra power to do that wide area.
Yeah.
Really important. But once we got that figured out, we compensated for those little spots. I mean, that's not bad. It's not the most beautiful thing in the entire world, but it's not bad.
Sure.
For figuring it out on the fly and using like 50 different settings. So what I would do,
And once it's recoded, it's gonna.
yeah, once it's recoded, that'll help too. And you can get that cleaner by playing with your frequency. That's what's really going to clean up that melt. You're gonna by messing with your frequency, that's really going to clean up those edges. But that's good. I mean, that's in there. If you were just doing a standard stipple pattern instead of an image, it would be really impressive looking right now, I think. So I would save this just so that you can.
This as a Glock stipple.
Yeah, I would do two. I would do Glock stipple narrow and Glock stipple wide, and the narrow will be for those smaller settings, and the wide will. So we have wide right now. This is kind of our wide setting. So I would go to your param library. Yep. And I'd call this one like Glock stipple wide, and you'll just remember that's for the bigger ones. Hey Rick, what's going on? And then I think your narrow settings were more like, I think we're at like 32 power, I believe, and more like 2000 speed. We didn't really have to change much to get those narrow areas working.
And keep the frequency the same?
It's up to you. We were around 190, I think, when we first started. Maybe 150. I would set it to 150, and then when you get back to your shop, you can play with that. That'll be the biggest thing to change. I wouldn't change the speed and power too much.
We're at 2,000 speed?
We're at 2,000 speed,
Okay.
yeah. So I'd take the frequency back up to 150. Yep. And then when you go back to your shop and you really start playing with these stippling settings and you're trying to dial them in, that's the main thing that I would start changing, is that frequency. Because that's where you're going to really find like the clean edge settings. The power and speed are good. We're getting depth.
Okay.
Once you're getting depth, power and speed don't need to be changed anymore. When it just comes down to you cleaning it up, the frequency is what's going to make the big difference.
Okay.
Breaking in that work table. And then, like I said, when you move into off-brand polymers for frames and stuff, that speed is going to come up, the power is going to go down, and it's going to be a frequency game on those. Yeah, it's a really, really slow kind of process to work through layers of melting those layers off nicely.
Right.
Because they just don't. You can hear it, the meow, right? Like it's engraving away that Glock polymer. Not how it's going to go on the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's not. It's going to be like. It's just the worst sound, dude.
Mud.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good at all. You're gonna notice.
Okay.
What else do you want to do?
Well, I got all kinds of parts. I mean, all my images that I have on here are pretty much just single images that I did on PMags.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I don't have anything big that I can do a whole
thing on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the main thing is like just your mindset, and knowing what's appropriate when,
Right. Now, one question would be, now let's say I have the full lower, and I just found a random general square pattern. Spider web, say.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Now, would I be able to just put a sacrificial piece of metal down there, put this on, and mark how we did the block for the slide, and just let it do the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we did with the Eagle, right?
Right.
We just didn't do the whole entire lower.
Right.
But
So-
as long as your focus is averaged across the part,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you can do whatever you want. It comes down to focus on really big stuff like that. You
Right.
just want to make sure. But we've already seen, and I think the Eagle was an excellent demonstration of its ability to climb those peaks on your focus there.
Yeah, it got the high peaks. The only place yet that I would have any concern would be right around
Yeah, yep. And
where
that,
the upper meets.
that
the barrel.
if that piece is going to be an issue because that's well outside of your max height. I can just see it looking from here.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would trim a square out of your pattern. This is some Illustrator stuff, and I can make a video on this. I would just basically cut a square and then line that blank empty square up with that piece
where it ended.
so that it spider webs everything except that spot. That way you don't get any kind of weird fades or anything. That piece is just completely left alone.
Yeah.
And I would leave it black. I wouldn't even try to engrave. It's just circles are really hard. And this isn't a shape you can just throw in the rotary tool and rotate either. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I would leave that alone unless you're going to go in by hand and do little sections of it as a time, continually rotating it as you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's
understood.
with like a vise. That would be the only way.
Right.
Would be the only way to do this because at some point something on the ring there for the buffer tube is going to fade.
Yeah.
And if you don't want fade, then I just wouldn't do it at all unless you're going to go, like I said, really custom and do one section at a time, each rope of that spider web, and slowly rotating your vise as you're doing it.
Sure.
That's how you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but everything else in there seems in range. So as long as you're paying attention to your focus, maybe doing a little bit of live adjusting as you watch it climb that first hill. I'm talking like millimeter, like not even like fractions of a millimeter. That's what you get to play with on height before you start ghosting.
Okay.
You can hit it, and you saw I did again like an eighth of a turn, just to give it just that little extra boost of power, just a little tiny. I mean, like nothing, man. The smallest changes to your focus are gonna make a massive
Now
difference.
that would be coming closer to get a little bit
So,
on those.
yeah, so we focused here to the mag release kind of shelf, right?
Yes.
So I focused a little bit further away so that we brought our focal point from here up a
So
little
we moved
closer
it
to the
away
top
a
of the
little
mountain.
bit. Okay.
Yep. And if we started running this, if we focused to the mag release and we started running this, and it was really strong up here, but it was weaker down inside the mag well, then I would have come a little
Come
closer.
down.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And then the NFA stuff, dude, like the big takeaway on that is repetition, not power.
Right.
You know what I mean? You want it to be nice and clean. you want to hit that depth, you're going to hit it real fast with the 60 watts. You can do it. I would still, you can hit it even faster with a smaller lens. Again, I always recommend a smaller lens unless you physically need the extra space. Then I would move to something bigger. Once you get a taste of doing stuff on the 70, 110, you're going to not want to go back because it's like just so wicked fast. You're going to be hitting things in 2 to 4 passes. You're going to be done, like deep done, you know. So that's going to make a really big difference. Yep.
Figure out how to set it up then.
And when I'm doing NFA engravings, I don't even try to hit the depth limit. I just blow right past it. Yeah, I don't even mess around. I'm not like, oh, it's like 3,000ths or 8,000. No, I just like, dude, I'm doing like half mil. You know, I'm just drilling like right past that. Then there's no question about the legality of it. As long as your characters are the right height, I think it's 1/16 of an inch.
16th.
Yep. It's the easiest thing in the world, dude. And you, as you can see, you're gonna hit 3,000ths on that in no time. You could, especially on the like the soft 60 aluminum, you could scratch with a nail to 3,000ths. You know what I mean? Your 60 watt Mopah is gonna fucking destroy it. So I wouldn't even worry about that.
Now, as far as the MOPA goes, like I said, I haven't even began to even attempt to try to figure that out.
Yeah.
I brought along a couple pieces of stainless. Can you show me something?
Yeah, we can talk about it a little bit. I'm not a Mopah expert. There isn't one in this entire shop. I've messed around with them. I understand the theory. We can talk about it a little bit, but I don't have like a beautiful Patreon settings list for Mopah settings for you yet, you know. But we can talk about it. The main thing is your Q pulse width here. See that setting? I don't have that on any of my machines. That's what makes this a Mopah, is that you can now adjust your Q pulse width. So if you have the M7 60 watt, I can show you a handy little thing over here on the Discord. Let me pull this up and we'll switch over for the people watching on stream here too. If we come into Fiber Laser technical reference, let's see, there's the 60 M7. So there's actually, somebody has uploaded these charts for us right here. So these are the technical charts for your laser. They're actually already in here. Somebody's dropped them in. And here you can see, if we look at this.
I actually have that form at home.
Oh, good. You have this
laser.
form?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So this is how many kilowatts, I guess, you're getting based on your nanoseconds for your pulse width. And you can read this and see where your power peaks. So you're going to get more power at certain pulse widths. And then there's also in relation to frequency. So if you're at like 20 nanoseconds, you might get peak power output at 50 frequency. But if you're at 200 nanoseconds for your pulse width, you might get peak power output at 190 frequency. I'm exaggerating those numbers. It's not that drastic of a difference. But being able to manipulate those as you shift through the different frequencies and shift through the different pulse widths, you're going to be able to heat the steel to different temperatures.
Gotcha.
And
that's what changes the color.
That is what's going to give you your different color. I can pull it off on mine, but my laser is locked to 200 nanoseconds on the Mopah. So I can't change my pulse width at all. So everything that I do to change the temperature of the metal has to be done within that frame of reference. You get to drag that slider around, and that's going to allow you to achieve different things. But it's really hard because not only does it's not just your settings of your machine that are going to change the color, it's the surface. How is it sandblasted? Is it smooth? Is it glossy? Is it rough? You know what I mean? Like mill scale, raw metal. That plays a huge role in how hot the metal is getting because it's going to reflect a different amount of the laser light. You know what I mean? How hot or cold is the room that you're sitting in? How hot or cold is the plate while it's just sitting on the bed not being marked? Are you using like a heat sink or is it just sitting raw on the bed? Is your air conditioning on? Is it in direct sunlight? I mean, like, it's so sensitive to those kind of variables and fluctuations. You have to eliminate all of those other variables if you want to start actually learning about what you can do with those colors. And then again, I kind of mentioned it too, but the color marking with Mopah settings are very, very corrosion sensitive. So if you don't do anything to protect them after you get those colors, they will start rusting. Like, they just will, which sucks. And then the other thing is that you can get a brilliant range of colors, but typically they have very limited viewing angles. So you might only be able to see them when you're looking at it from like a 45-degree angle. Some of them you might only be able to see when you're looking at them dead on. Some of them you might be looking at them from a 180-degree angle and it looks blue, but when you look at it straight on, it's yellow or black or not there at all. So that's I read a lot about this on the Discord, and that's so many different anecdotal stories from so many different people with so many different settings. So what I would do, and what most people do, rather than doing this here today, because we're not really set up for it.
I'm going to save that for a totally another chapter down the road.
What you have to do is you have to go on the Discord. You're going to go on the Discord, and you're going to ask somebody for one of their Mopop test sheets. And they're going to give you a big grid filled with squares. And on one, it's going to have kilohertz, and on the other one, it's going to have pulse width. And then they literally all are hatched with different kilohertz and pulse widths, right? So a ton of different settings. And then you can run the spread, and it's going to do all those different squares. And then you can look across the grid and look for colors and things that you like.
I see.
But you have to remember, it's on that specific piece of metal with that specific finish on this day with that weather outside. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to keep really detailed notes so that if you're ever like, man, that purple I got on that steel was really cool, it'd be perfect for this project. Yeah, you have to recreate that environment, recreate those settings, use the same exact metal, and then you can reproduce that result. So that's kind of, but do the sheets, you know? And there's a bunch of those combo sheets. So one is going to be frequency and pulse width. One is going to be frequency and power. One is going to be frequency and speed. And then they'll have another one, speed and power, speed and pulse width, speed and frequency. So you can compare all those different variables and see how one is affecting the next. And, you know, learning how to read the charts is very difficult too. I very barely know what I'm talking about when I'm looking at these charts. Geo on the Discord, you know Geo, you've probably seen Geo's popped up. Yeah. So Geo's starting a channel on YouTube called Maker Theory, and his very first video is going to be about pulse width and frequency. He's been working on it for a really long time, and he's been trying to explain it to me for a really long time, and I still have no idea what he's talking about. So I'm hoping that his video like brings a little more info to me. But all you really need to know about your Mopop abilities is that you have another slider you can change, and you don't. All of your settings do one thing at 200 nanoseconds, and all of those settings are going to do something different at 100 nanoseconds, or 50 nanoseconds, or 10 nanoseconds. You're shifting your frame of reference, so those settings mean different things when you change that window that you're looking through. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
On like a meta level,
right,
rather than a technical level,
right? Yeah.
That's as well as I'm able to explain it to you without having one.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, like I said, what I'm mainly going to be doing is the things that we did today.
Yep.
When I buy something, I want to buy something where I don't have to buy it twice.
You definitely don't have to buy it. You have like the dream machine, dude.
So, that's what I want. You know, I don't want to have to say, oh, I wish I would have.
The M7 60 watt particularly. So, they have different lasers have different pulse energies. So every time that you get a pulse, right? So we were talking about frequency before, pulsing the laser. Different laser sources have a different pulse energy rating, which is the maximum amount of energy you can get per pulse. The 60 watt M7 has a very high pulse energy, much higher than my 30 watt LPE, I believe it is. Mine's like 0.8 millijoules. Yours is like 1.25 or 1.5. So you're almost getting twice as much energy per pulse. Wattage aside, almost twice as much energy per pulse. This is top of the line equipment. You're doing really good. And as you learn all of the different,
that's the thing, trying to learn it.
You're not gonna run into any brick walls with this machine for a really long time. Saying, well, I wish I could have done this.
Right. That's what I did. That's what I didn't want to do, and that's. I was kind of going in blind with a little bit of research from here and there as far as what machine, what I wanted, speaking to different companies, and this is what I ended up with.
You chose well. Yeah, you chose well, dude. It's a nice little machine for sure. It's gonna last you a really long time.
Yep. My support at the other end was better. That'd be great.
Right.
But I guess it's, you know.
You got Discord at your back, man.
Yeah, exactly. And since I found you, and it's made things 100 times easier than trying to. Because when I opened this program the first time.
I try to, it's like you still have to learn everything, but I'm trying to take like 5 years of struggle and like reduce that to like 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Right. I think that's like kind of the goal. So I'm glad to hear that it's helping.
Yeah, seeing it done versus Googling it or reading about it is just not even comparable. So this here is just an extreme help. I mean, I learned just in the 2 hours I've been here more than I have in the last month trying to figure it myself.
For sure.
So,
yep.
So
and you always got me too. Like I said, the Discord, dude. I'm on like 24/7.
Right.
I don't know. You're on the Discord?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
What's your username on there?
JL Tragus.
Okay, cool. I got it. And so this is a Discord. This is a channel. You can request videos. We do the live streams. You can get on the live stream, literally do stuff side by side with me as we're like working on stuff.
Yeah.
You can like watch as we're doing it on the screen and like reproduce it, and just stuff like that. So there's resources available to you. And we'll have you back up soon, and we can do it again. Once you kind of have like the basics really tight, and you've got like kind of a workflow, then we can get into like some more advanced stuff without losing you on like some of the more kind of like run of the mill things.
Yeah.
Well, it's just laser time, dude. You just got to put the laser time in and run the damn thing.
Get used to what you showed me now, and I'll get those different lenses and play with those, and hopefully advance to some deeper engravings.
Do you have any other questions while we're?
No.
Because I'm gonna let these guys go.
I think
if you're feeling confident that you've got something to at least take home.
Yeah, I have a starting point.
Good.
Where we're at, and I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, I just want to take a second. I'm gonna help. Where Jason's gonna need a handout because we got a lot of equipment. We barely got it in here, so it's gonna take us a minute to get it out. But I did want to thank him for coming by, sharing his projects with us today. So thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me up here, Alex.
Yeah, of course, no problem at all. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's. It was weird. I know it was weird. Okay, it's not as fluid as normal. We have a machine in the shop that isn't normally here, so I had to kind of work around that. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. Tyler West says thanks for the entertainment. No problem. And I've got lots more videos for you guys coming, so don't forget, tomorrow is podcast release day. We got to get you listening to the podcast. You got to check that out. This is really cool.
On my drive home.
And so tomorrow's podcast release day. I've got a couple big episodes coming out. Mondays is going to be particularly cool. We're replacing the head on the Galvo CO2 and swapping out the beam expander and stuff. So I'm going to have a lot of cool stuff for you guys to check out on that front. And I think that's about it. So I've got lots of work to do, obviously, as usual, but thanks so much for tuning in. We did almost 3 hours today, so that's pretty rocking, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See you later.